Hello and welcome to the 141st episode of Downtime Podcast. Today I have Jordan with me. Hello, Jordan.
Hey, I'm back.
He's back, and we're going to be talking about stuff. This is a regular podcast, nothing crazy, nothing special. Tell me about what you're playing right now, Jordan.
So there's two main games I've been playing recently. One is Risk of Rain 2, which came out with its 1.0 release recently. And it's a game that I have a lot of history with because I extensively played the first game, Risk of Rain, and then the second game I really, really like, and I've almost gotten 100% of the achievements in it so far, and it's already the 1.0 release.
Oh my god!
Yeah, because I played the early access as well. But like, it's a game.
And they didn't have
really,
achievements,
really
right?
They did, but not as many.
Oh,
They
okay.
added a whole bunch of new ones, and I've been like collecting all the artifacts and getting all the items. But,
Cool.
Yeah. And that's for those who don't know, it's Risk of Rain Risk of Rain 2. I mean, it applies to both, but Risk of Rain is a roguelike. So it's you go in there with a specific character and you have certain abilities. You collect items over the course of several stages, and then you can either loop infinitely or you can beat the game by defeating a final boss. And yeah, it's really fun. It's got a cool like cartoony art style. It's 3D. The first one was 2D. And this new one, it's a 3D version. They have new characters and all kinds of crazy items, and it's 4-player co-op. Although you can mod it to have like more than 4. But yeah, it's a cool, fun game. And then alongside that, I've recently been playing Remnant from the Ashes. Have you heard of that game?
No, what is that?
Yeah, so it's free on Epic Game Store. That's the only reason I started playing it, because it was free. One of my friends, he bought it a while ago, and he was like, "Oh, hey, we should check this out. You should check this out because it's free." So there's 3 of us. One friend who bought it, and then 2 of us are playing it since it was free on the Epic Game Store.
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially it's Dark Souls with guns is the best way I can put it, and co-op.
Okay.
And I know a lot of games are like, oh, it's like Dark Souls, but this game, it's very clear that there is Dark Souls inspiration. Like, there's a bonfire mechanic. Instead of a bonfire, it's like a crystal, and you sit at it, and then you recharge all your abilities and your healing and whatever, and it resets all the enemies. And then the gameplay style, you can tell, is very, very Dark Souls. There's a lot of mechanics based around dodging and invincibility frames, but, there's guns, which sounds like it would be easier. But the thing is, your enemies also have guns, so you have to be aware of that. And so you can use snipers and shotguns, and there's a laser rifle, and there's all kinds of cool stuff. And it's co-op, which I know Dark Souls has a co-op mechanic, but I'm not a big fan of the Dark Souls like summoning and invading co-op mechanic. This one is just straight up, you join each other, you go on missions together. And what's really cool about it is every playthrough you do... Well, so you have like a playthrough of the game from beginning to end, right? And there's like bosses and levels along the way. And when you restart the game and you start a new playthrough, it will be different. Like the levels will be different. The bosses that you encounter may be different. Like you don't encounter every boss on every playthrough of the game.
Right.
And so if you're playing with a friend's save file, or if you're playing your save file, or if you start a new one, then the game's going to be different. And there's also several ways to kill bosses. Like there's one boss where if you blow off his legs and kill him, then you get like this cool melee weapon. But if you kill him the normal way, then you get a shotgun. And you only can beat him once per playthrough. So it's kind of like it's encouraging you to replay. We haven't gotten to the point where we've beaten the game yet. That's just knowledge I know of secondhand from people who've played the game before. But yeah, it's really fun. I recommend it if you're into that sort of Dark Souls style of gameplay where it's difficult. You're going to die quite a bit. And it's kind of a learn as you go mechanic where it's like you get killed by something and you learn, okay, well, now I know how this works. Now I'm going to go back into it. So it can be kind of frustrating, not for everyone. But yeah, Remnant from the Ashes, really cool game. You could definitely see the Dark Souls inspiration, and it's a looter shooter. There's loot you can collect and upgrade and all that.
Like Borderlands.
So, yeah, similar-ish, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you've been playing Borderlands?
Yeah, I've been playing that too because one of my friends, he's studying, he's in grad school right now, and he recently is on a break, and he has not touched Borderlands 3. I've actually beat that game twice.
Oh my god!
With 2 different characters. And then my friend came in and he's like, "Oh, hey, I haven't touched this game at all. Would you be willing to play with me again?" I was like, "All right, I could make another 3rd character because there's 4 characters you can play as in Borderlands 3." And so I've done Mose, who's the gunner. I've played with Flak, who's normally a sniper character, and now I'm playing as Amara, who's like a shotgun close quarter combat character. And it's pretty fun. And he hasn't touched the game or the DLC, and I've only played one of the DLC.
Right.
So I'm kind of excited to get to that point and play through the DLC, but. Also, Borderlands 3, also highly recommend.
Did you play the dinosaur one yet?
No, that's the latest one. So I played the Handsome Jackpot, which is a casino one. It's casino themed, and includes some characters from previous games.
Yeah.
And then I only gotten a little bit way through the Love, Guns, and Tentacles one, which is like a Cthulhu-ish DLC. It's kind of cool. But I've only gotten a little bit way into that one. And then the third one is about dinosaurs and outlaws. And that one I'm excited to get into. But still haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I remember seeing all the trailers with the dinosaurs in it. I was like, that's cool. That looks really cool.
Yeah.
So they're finally getting to it. And you said it's finally released. So
Yep.
Let us know how it is when you finish it or when you start playing it.
Yeah.
So you're busy. You got 3 games on your plate. You're playing.
Yep, among other things, yeah.
Yes. On my end, DBD, of course, it's always going to be there. Speaking of DBD, they're coming out with a graphical update soon to improve, the look of the game, the levels, the lighting, all that stuff. So that's really exciting. And recently, I beat Ghost of Tsushima, and you, of course, know this because you were watching me the whole time.
I was watching you for like 90% of the game. I was there watching you play through it.
Well, I mean, you didn't really miss any of the important stuff. You were always there for the major stuff, the main story quests. So, from someone that wasn't playing the game, did you still feel immersed? Did you still feel part of the world?
I feel like it was entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Like, it was definitely an entertaining watch because there's so many ways you can handle different situations.
Yes.
And like the story was pretty like. To be honest, the story of Ghost of Tsushima is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, there aren't any major twists. There's some twists, but you can kind of see them coming. You're like, this guy's probably going to stab you in the back. Or this is not going to turn out the way that they seem to be portraying it as. Like, I wouldn't say there's any crazy story elements to Ghost of Tsushima.
Right.
That doesn't mean it's a bad story, though. It's still an engaging story, and I enjoyed watching it fold out. And, it's... I enjoyed watching it. It was pretty cool. It's cinematic, and that's kind of the point, right?
Oh, yeah. We're not going to talk about any spoiler-specific story beats or anything that's regarding, like, specific characters and what happens to them in the future. But, like, I want to talk about Kenji, because I thought he was going to kill us. Well, I'm glad he didn't. This isn't really a spoiler for the character Kenji, because he's just like they only do 3 missions for him. Everyone else is 9 missions. He's like 3 missions and you're done. He's like a whatever character, because he's just there for a hot second and then he's like, I'm helping out. And I'm like, all right, okay, cool. I'm never going to see you ever again.
Yeah.
But I thought he was going to be really sleazy and then somehow get the Mongols to come kill us because he was like so buddy-buddy with the Mongols, But I don't know. I'm glad it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, I would say one criticism I have of the game... and this is even coming from someone who only watched it.
Sure.
But, without saying any major spoilers, there's one exception. But other than that one exception, there aren't a lot of big player choices. It's mostly just you play and things happen. Like there aren't a lot of a lot of the choice moments are made for you in a cutscene, right?
Right.
There aren't a lot of moments where it's like, oh, you could make this big decision or you could make this big decision. It's
right.
Just like the story just happens, which again is not a bad thing. Like the same thing happens in The Last of Us. It's mostly just the characters make the choices on a cutscene. But I think it would have been cool to have more of those big player choices that affect the world, because they kind of make one at the end. They do show you one choice at the end, but I wish there was more of that.
No, I know what you mean. It's like in a main mission, you can either go in as the ghost or the samurai.
Yeah,
right?
But in the end, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
Like, it's not going to affect the world in any way.
The only time that you get choices of what you do is when you're fighting Mongol bases.
Yeah.
And but then those don't really, they have an effect on how you liberate each part of the islands, but not as an overall story beat.
Yeah.
Killing innocent people would definitely change how people think of you, but they don't have the mechanic, right?
Yeah.
And killing a bunch of Mongols doesn't really give you like that sense that you're helping the islands as a whole because you're the only one doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to describe this. It's like your actions in the overworld are not as big as the ones you do when you're doing a story beat, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the main story missions where you're supposed to go on a path.
Yeah.
But everything there is already written for you, so it doesn't feel like you have a lot of choices.
Yeah, so one thing I would have thought would be interesting is because throughout the game you recruit allies, right? You have these people. I thought it would have been interesting and would have added to replayability if they made it, certain allies will only join you if you do these certain actions.
Right.
Like it has to be one or the other. Like if you take things the stealth way and you poison people, then these guys will side with you. But if you take things the honorable way and you face it like a samurai, then these guys will side with you.
Right.
I thought that would have been cool if they made it that way. That way you would be encouraged to make different choices on a different playthrough. But, again, it's not a huge gripe. I'm just saying it would have been interesting if they did it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would have. I think it would have been a different game.
Yeah.
It still. I think it still deserves all the praise and fanfare that it does get because
Yeah,
it's,
definitely.
oh my god, it's such a beautiful game. The music, the visuals.
The acting's pretty solid.
Yeah. I love the oversaturation of all the colors. Like the sky blue is like super blue.
Yeah, and they include different environments, which I'm not sure how realistic that is.
No.
But there's some very different environments throughout. Like this place is clearly in autumn, and this place is clearly in winter, and this place is clearly in summer. And so it's like, but you can go through each place and it always looks the same. But yeah. It's definitely visually stunning. The action looks fun.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of variety, at least in terms of the way you tackle. Again, maybe the story is always going to be the same, but in terms of the way you tackle situations, there's a lot of variety, and so that's really cool.
Yeah.
And the skill trees and all that.
Yeah. No, I think it's really different too in a lot of ways. Like the way that they use the wind as a waypoint, as opposed to having an actual waypoint. Having animals like come up to you and like you're basically Cinderella and they lead you everywhere.
Yeah, like there's slight supernatural elements, but for the most part it's pretty grounded, which is kind of cool, like interesting, where it's like you make it realistic but you add these slight supernatural elements for the sake of gameplay, like again, like leading you waypoints or letting you unlock things, or there's like one quest where you fight some kind of monk guy who I'm not sure if he was real or not. But
oh yeah.
Then you fight him in this weird dream sequence and it's just like, what? But again, I won't say exactly what that mission is. No, no spoilers there. But yeah, there's this weird mission where you fight a guy in this crazy dream sequence and then you kill him, obviously, but then he's just not there when you wake up, so it's I don't know what's going on there, but
he's like, oh, and he runs away. He's like, okay, we're done.
So I don't know, but yeah, there's some slight supernatural elements to it. But yeah, overall it's a pretty grounded game, which is interesting.
It's implied that your dad is the wind.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, and I guess your dad's the animals too, because these animals wouldn't generally come up to you like, oh, you're the savior of Tsushima, and then they like try to help you. It's like they don't know that.
Yeah,
they're just animals.
I don't know. But
like foxes and the golden bird specifically, and the cows, they don't care. Every other animal is like whatever, dude. But yeah, I mean it's definitely a different game as opposed to The Last of Us Part 2, which we both experienced together as well. It's a more positive game, I would say. There's still some things that lean towards like being sad.
I mean, there's a lot of death.
Yeah, I mean
there's a lot of people dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems more of a traditional story as opposed to Last of Us 2, which was definitely going for something more controversial.
Right.
More,
yeah. It's like watching a really sad movie and then like watching The Lord of the Rings and seeing them just like kill a bunch of people. Like that's how it feels. Like
it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you're a superhero. Or it's like watching a Marvel movie. You're like, oh man, this is awesome. Just seeing the heroes win because you want to win. You want Jin to win in the game because he's a hero. Yeah,
we've discussed this as well as like in Ghost of Tsushima, you feel like you're liberating people. You feel like you're doing the right thing by killing the Mongols at this time.
Right.
And in Last of Us 2, they make you feel terrible about killing people.
And people around you die, and you're like, oh my god.
They make the whole point of the game is to make you feel bad for the things that you're doing. And
right.
Ghost of Tsushima, no, like you said, you feel like the hero. You feel like you're doing the right thing. So that's the difference there.
But then it's funny because when I was playing it, and you were like, "Are you literally the only person doing all this?" Because I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, "Wait, there's other people that should have survived." Like some characters, like Sensei Ishikawa, are too busy doing other things. He's just so focused.
Like every town that got liberated, every Mongol fort that got destroyed was because of one guy. You, the main character. Nobody. That's another again minor gripe.
Right.
Is it doesn't feel like the world is alive. Like the world only happens when you are there.
Yeah.
So it's like it doesn't feel like there's a greater world out there. But again, you could argue, well, you get to participate in everything, so there's that element to it. But yeah, like literally Jin is the only one doing anything. Nobody else is doing anything.
It's so funny you mentioned that because right down to the last part of the game, remember when you have to push the cart? You're literally the only person there. I'm like, there's literally no one else around to help you, dude.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
It's like, do I gotta do everything on this island?
Yeah, it's like, come on. No, it's, oh my god, yeah. There's for people who are completionists, the game is a collect-a-thon. It's a collect-a-fest. I think a lot of people that just love exploring. The game is meant to be explored. The studio wants you to explore every nook and cranny of the game. I platinumed the game. I mean, you don't have to collect everything to platinum the game. It's actually quite easy to do it as long as you have as long as you get really far in the game and you understand the mechanics and how things work and have all the fun little weapons. I think you can definitely 100% the game pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
That is not to say if there's DLC that comes out in the future, which I will talk about later, it will definitely add some more achievements, and I might have to get this DLC to complete the game because it's one of 2 games that I've platinumed on PlayStation. The first one is Sleeping Dogs, Definitive Edition. And it took a long time for me to platinum that game because there's some things in there that I'm like, this is hard. But with Ghost of Tsushima, it was awesome. One minor detail I want to go back to is the seasons, how it was like spring, summer, fall, and winter on the island, basically, and how unrealistic it was. It's funny because I guess it's supposed to imply, this is taking place over a long period of time.
Yeah.
It only took place like over a month or 2 in the actual Battle of Tsushima.
Yeah.
Which was 1274. So I'm like, I guess that's just they wanted to display the different climates to you from the island.
Yeah, I get it. From like our artistic and gameplay standpoint, they want to be able to show what Tsushima looks like in different seasons or in different parts of Tsushima, because otherwise it would look all the same everywhere, and that would be boring.
Yeah, exactly, and it's really cool to look at because you go from like the red, yellow trees to like a stark white in the north. And I think it's awesome. Like the game handles it really well too, like overall.
Yeah,
like,
and you can make haikus, which is a weird thing, but it actually is kind of cool because it's like the way it's done is very cinematic. Yeah, and that's another area where they do give the player choice. It ultimately doesn't change anything based on what you choose. What haiku, like they give you certain options to make the haiku, right? And no matter what you make, you're probably gonna get the same reward at the end. But like it's nice to have that little player customization where you make your own haiku and it plays out really cinematic. Yeah,
it's just a way for your character to say different lines and for you to choose what you think attains to that phrase, like reflect on refuge or reflect on death, and then you decide like, what do I think about death of these 3 choices that are pre-picked for me? It's a multiple choice question, basically. The music I think is really cool too. A lot of people have been like describing this as Breath of the Wild, which I am playing right now, but
I could see that.
And I mean, there's a lot of comparisons because it takes place in a expansive world. You have a horse and you have a sword and you fight.
A bow and arrow.
And a bow and arrow, and I could see how. I mean, the same people said that about Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah, like, but you don't have a horse in that game, but I could see how there's a lot of comparisons drawn. I would say that Ghost of Tsushima is more akin to Breath of the Wild as opposed to Horizon Zero Dawn, which I have yet to finish, and as does Alyssa, but we'll get to it eventually. Yep. So do you think there's going to be a sequel for Ghost of Tsushima?
Probably. I mean, but what would it be about, right? The Battle of Tsushima is over.
So there were actually 2 invasions by the Mongols to Japan. One in 1274 and the other one in 1281. So
not too far apart.
Yeah, Jin will still be alive. It'll just be, a few years older.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So for those that don't know, in the actual Battle of Tsushima that took place in the same time period the Ghost of Tsushima does, which is 1274, there was a huge typhoon at the end. Called a kamikaze, and it blew all the ships away so that there were only a few ships left, and then some of the Mongols were stranded on the island, so the samurai just got out of their hiding places and just stabbed all of them because they're just like, well, there's more of us than you now, so looks like you guys are stuck here. And then when the second time that the Mongols tried to invade, another storm came through and blew them away. So Japan has formally never been invaded. The mainland of Japan has never been invaded by an outside force, which is interesting. It's one of the few countries.
Yeah, I think that's what led to the Empire of Japan, but not to get too far into the history of it.
Right. They're like, we're so strong, we could beat anything. It's like, okay, well.
Calm down a little.
Your hubris is getting too far ahead. Okay, yeah, I'm really looking forward to the sequel of Ghost of Tsushima. Obviously, if it's going to be called Ghost of Tsushima, it's going to take place on Tsushima once again. I don't know how much of the assets they're going to reuse. Like, I don't know if it's going to...
Yeah.
What are you going to do from that point? Because you already have the map built.
You would have to change it. And that's another parallel to Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild 2 also takes place in the same map, right?
Yeah, and it's implied, yeah.
Yeah, but there would have to be... So I'm interested how Nintendo's going to handle that. It was like, how do you make it different enough that it feels new and fresh? Right. While also familiar enough that, it feels like the same... It's capturing the same essence.
I'm sure Sucker Punch is going to be taking notes.
Yeah, and obviously a sequel's going to have to take place on Tsushima, of course. Like you said, there's precedence for another battle. But yeah, like the game is so tied to the idea of Tsushima and the spirit of Tsushima, and like it's so much tied to that of course, like they're not gonna make it take place on the mainland Japan and make it something completely different. It wouldn't really be a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima.
Well, a lot of people have been saying the next game should take place as Tomoe as the main character and her time on the mainland. But then I'm like, that's not Tsushima. That's just the mainland. But maybe she has to go back to Tsushima and save something.
I could see it having like dual locations, where you're going back and forth. I could see that, but Tsushima seems so core to the game, like to the spirit of the game, that I can't imagine it wouldn't really be a sequel if it took place somewhere else. Yeah,
no, I'd love to see 2 different maps. I want to see parts of the mainland Japan, maybe like Kyoto, because they talked about Kyoto in the game, and I want to see Kyoto, but I still want to see all of like Tsushima map because I think that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we'll get the next con, fight that guy.
Yeah, there's gonna be another one.
There'll always be another one. But didn't he say that in the game? He's like, oh, there's...
That's true. At the end, he does say something. Well,
exactly. That's why I stopped. I was like, wait.
I don't want to get into spoilers, but
apologies.
It's implied that someone would, spoiler alert for history. Obviously, they didn't invade. They didn't succeed in invading Tsushima.
Right.
But obviously, there's an implication at the end that someone else would come along, which, again, historically did happen.
Right.
So
well, I mean...
It's not really that much of a spoiler.
The event as a whole is not a spoiler, but the characters in the game definitely are the spoiler. And I realized at the beginning, I was like, we're not going to spoil characters, and I totally just talked about Kenji. But I mean, I didn't say anything. What happens to Kenji?
Just don't go into this game expecting a whole bunch of twists and turns. There's not too much of that. Again, it's based on historical events. Obviously, exaggeration in some of the characters made up. Right. But, you're going into it for a beautiful story that isn't supposed to, it's not Last of Us 2. It's not like, whoa, what? I can't believe that happened. What am I doing now? It's just like, oh wow, this happened exactly as I expected it to happen, but it was cool.
Right.
That's what you should go into Ghost of Tsushima.
That's how I felt. Remember when I killed that guy and took his clothes?
Yeah.
I was like, this is really cool, but it's not real because I just took his clothes.
Yeah. So it's not gonna surprise you on the story front, but it's still really cool and really beautiful.
Agreed. And grappling hook. Everyone loves grappling hooks.
It's very unrealistic, but again, gameplay over realism.
He shoots it out of somewhere and it grapples on. It just
fires out of you. So, you don't even swing it; it just shoots out of you.
Exactly.
All right, sure, whatever.
All right, we'll take this.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool game. Can't wait for a sequel. I really want a sequel. I mean, I'm buying a PS5 no matter what, so I'm getting that game.
Yeah, and again, I do hope they add some more elements of player choice in the sequel.
I'm sure they're listening.
Because again, this is not just me saying, oh, I want the entire game to change. Like, as I said, they do give you an important choice at the end.
Right.
But I just wish that there was more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. One little fun fact about Sucker Punch. I actually didn't know that they made the Sly Cooper games. That was like their first major trilogy, first major game series was Sly Cooper, and then it was Infamous. I know about Infamous, but I didn't know who made Sly Cooper, and I was like, oh shoot, Sucker Punch.
I didn't know that I haven't seen Sly Cooper in forever, so I didn't know anything about it.
Well, there's an Easter egg that's a trophy in the game where if you wear a specific outfit that is has the emblem of Sly Cooper, then you'll unlock that trophy. And I was like, huh, why was that? And I was like, oh yeah, of course they made Sly Cooper, and it was like a special headband that had like a little hook. Because Sly Cooper's weapon is like a hook, and then
the staff.
Yeah, and then his color armor, and I was like, oh, and then like a bow, like with special colors, and I was like, oh, I have all that stuff, and I put it on, and then it was like, oh, you unlock this trophy. I was like, what? Oh, okay, Sly Cooper reference. Yeah. So I because like the whole time I was like, where are the references to other like Sucker Punch games? And I didn't know that. Oh yeah, of course, Sly Cooper, of course. So very few Easter eggs in the game overall.
Yeah, and again, to be very vague, the people who beat the game will know what I'm talking about, but the choice that I referred to, like, let's say they make a sequel, and the sequel is also about Jin in Tsushima. I wonder how they're gonna handle that choice at the end, because the choice is a big choice.
Right.
And, like, how is that gonna affect the sequel if it's also about Jin? If it's about a separate character, it'll just be very vague. But if it is about Jin, like, how are they going to address that choice?
It's going to choose. Yeah, like, basically the choice is which color armor are you going to choose, right?
And then it's just, basically say that.
And then it's just like, but I think they're going to go with the color that I didn't choose first, as you know. I think they're going to go with the color I chose second.
Canon. Yeah,
yes.
Seems like it would be more of the
because
canon
it feels like that. The other one just felt really Last of Us 2-y, you know?
Yeah, I'm not really sure why they gave you a choice, but I'm happy that they give you a choice.
I think
again, I'm promoting that idea, but I'm curious as to why they left any kind of dramatic choice until the very end.
I think it's because they wanted you to have an attachment to the beginning of the game.
Oh,
From that point on, you're like, oh crap, okay, this is real. It's like, like how do I feel as how did I feel as my journey through this game went, and how do I feel towards what's happening? In front of me. How do I feel towards both of these choices? And I think. Yeah, I mean, like you and I like debated a little bit, like which one should I choose, and then I was like, yeah, I think I should just choose this route, and I was like, this doesn't seem right, and then I was like, oh yeah, I have another save, and just did that, and I was like, I can see both now.
Yeah.
So I think it was the second choice that I made is the one that they're gonna build a sequel off of.
I can see that.
But because I think it'll be really cool, I think it'll really be a really cool game.
Yeah, they'll have a redemption part of it, so we'll see.
Yeah. But anyways, no more spoilers. Sorry. For whoever's listening, you can totally skip all that part.
We tried to be as vague as possible, so hopefully that didn't really tell you much.
Yeah. And Lisa hasn't even started this game yet, and I already platinumed it. So, damn, Alyssa, I'm sorry. I beat this game. So I mentioned before, Breath of the Wild is on my queue right now that I'm currently playing. It's fun. I mean, I think there's like that whole. I was still thinking about Ghost of Tsushima, and I wanted to play that, but I already beat it, so there's nothing else I could do in that game. Yeah. So I was like, oh, damn, I need another fix. And I was like, all right, Breath of the Wild it is. So I started playing it. I'm actually disappointed by the horse controls. It's not the same as Ghost of Tsushima, and I get stuck a lot being on a horse. It's a really fun game, though. Breath of the Wild is...
Yeah, because with Breath of the Wild, you have... I would say it excels more in the exploration aspect, right?
Absolutely.
You can climb on anything, and you can pretty go anywhere, whereas with Ghost of Tsushima, you're kind of locked out of certain areas.
Yeah.
The exploration is you're kind of limited to like, oh, you can only climb in this area, or you only can go up these mountains, right?
Right.
Whereas in Breath of the Wild, you can kind of just go anywhere.
Yeah, like literally the point of Breath of the Wild was if you could see it, you can go to it. I think that's what Eiji Aonuma, the producer, said, or was it Shigeru Miyamoto? But like one of them was like, yeah, if you could see it, you can go to it. And I think that speaks true to Breath of the Wild, and that's why a lot of people compare Ghost of Tsushima to Breath of the Wild because you could see like this giant cherry blossom tree at the top of a mountain. You're like, damn, that looks really cool. And you're like, oh shit, I can actually go there. So I think that's really cool how both of those games have parallels to each other in that sense of exploration. Because again, I mentioned Sucker Punch wants you to explore. They want you to see everything, do everything. They want you to go to a lot of places that you probably wouldn't see. And I think that's why when you finish like raiding a Mongol base on Ghost of Tsushima, it'll like kind of explode on the minimap, and it'll show you like the area is now clear and there's no more fog, and it'll have question marks because they want you to go to that area and see what's there. Basically, Ghost of Tsushima is it's for people that are compulsive and they just want to do everything at once. Because every time I saw that little yellow bird, remember, I'm like, ah, damn, there it is again. I'm in the middle of a battle and it just comes out of nowhere. I'm like, dude, go away.
Yeah. So it's a very much an exploration or open. It's very open world. And again, there are certain parts that are sectioned off until you complete a certain
right.
But yeah, it's pretty much an open world game.
Zelda's different in that aspect because you from the very beginning. Well, not from the very beginning. After you get the glider, you have to go. You can go anywhere in the game, but there's a specific set point. It's like go to Kakariko Village after you finish the Great Plateau. You're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go there. But what if I go to Hyrule Castle? No, you're gonna get destroyed by the Guardians and probably whatever lies there. Because remember we did that one time with Gyrus. We're like, let's just go to the castle, see what happens. So we went to the castle and then fucking died.
But and I like that aspect of Breath of the Wild where it's like you're not actually like phically locked out of an area.
Right.
You can go there.
Right.
You'll just die.
Exactly.
But like it lets you explore and say, okay, well this area is super high level, so I know to come back there when I have the right gear. Yeah. Right. So, and I appreciate that more, that open world aspect of it. But, I get why other games might just physically lock you off.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah, Breath of the Wild's good so far. I finished Kakariko Village and I went to the next town called Hateno Village. And in Hateno Village, there's an empty house that you can buy.
Oh, that's cool.
The guy's like, it'll be 50,000 rupees. I'm like, I have zero. I'm literally poor in this game. I don't know how to make money. Like I could sell like certain like rubies, like stones, like certain gemstones to the sellers, to the marketplace, and get like a lot of rupees. But then every guide online is telling me don't sell anything. I'm like, then how do I make money? Like I don't know what to do.
You just smash pots. I don't know.
There aren't any pots around me. I can't find any pots. I've been going inside every building. I'm like, there's only a few pots.
I don't know.
But they don't have rupees. And then so I've been like killing these bandits and getting rupees that way. But like, I don't know. I guess I just have to explore more because I want to buy better armor. Because this lady's like, hey, there's some people at the beach that are. These monsters at the beach are like stealing my cattle every day. I'm like, okay. So I go to the beach and they all just destroy me in one hit. I'm like, okay, I need to get more hearts, more stamina, and better armor. And I can't get any of those things. So I guess I have to go to more shrines to get more orbs, to get more stamina and health, but also get more money so I can buy more things. I'm like, how do I get money? It's a predicament.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I when I first left the Great Plateau, I was like, it was dark, and so a bunch of zombies came out of nowhere, and I was like, snap. So then I quickly tamed a horse and then like ran away. And I went to a stable, and can you guess what I named the horse?
It was
I know what you're thinking of.
I know. I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head. Nobu.
Yes, I named him Nobu.
Yeah.
That's right. And I was like, oh man, you're my first horse. I'm going to name you Nobu. And if he dies, I'm going to name the new one Nobu too. And just keep naming them after him.
Yeah.
So Nobu is the horse I named in Ghost of Tsushima for context.
Yeah,
That's not really a spoiler.
You have 3 choices, right?
Yes. So I'm going to name all my horses in Breath of the Wild after the choices that I had to make in Ghost of Tsushima. But my second horse that I got, his name is Buck, after my Animal Crossing villager.
Oh, yeah.
And then the third one is Blue, and it's Sora, which means sky, which is one of the choices you get. And when I get a all black horse, I'm gonna name it Kage.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh yeah, it goes to Tsushima. Yeah, I was trying to play in ghost mode with air quotes in Breath of the Wild by sneaking up on like a bunch of what are they called? Hobgoblins? I forget. They're little goblin dudes. I tried to sneak up on them, but they all noticed me because like there's nothing to hide behind.
Yeah.
There's no tall grass, and I just threw a bunch of bombs at them and tried to kill them, but they were too strong.
Yeah, and I don't think Breath of the Wild is normally considered like stealthy. You know,
No, it's not a stealth game. It's a head-on game.
Yeah.
So I'm at the point now where I have to find 4 guardians. Basically, the story is Hyrule's dead. You gotta go find some guardians. Gotta go take it back.
Yeah,
So
typical Zelda storyline. There's Ganon is involved in some way.
Right.
Zelda's involved in some way, obviously. But
what's interesting is that this game isn't mentioned by Eiji Aonuma, the producer. He doesn't want to talk about how this fits into the overall Zelda timeline. Because I think this, but there's all the games fit together in a puzzle, a complicated puzzle.
Yeah.
But a puzzle.
Yeah, and I've seen that Breath of the Wild could fit into any of them.
Right.
I think that's probably the point.
Right.
It's so distant in the future of any of these timelines that you don't know which one it could be, and I think that's cool. I find that cool.
I wanted to because they always mention 10,000 years ago, and I'm like, damn, that's a long ass time. But they also say 100 years ago. 100 years ago is when the kingdom initially fell, but 10,000 years ago is like when the forces of evil and the forces of good came to a big clash. And I'm like, okay, this game is set far in the future. I think a lot of people know that, but they want a definitive answer from Nintendo themselves. But I think that's fine. I think not knowing it is even better, and maybe we'll find out in Breath of the Wild too,
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I the idea I guess is that Link is always reborn every generation or so. I guess.
and Zelda,
I guess.
For some reason.
And they always have the same names, I guess, but yeah.
So in some games they're implied to be lovers. In some games they're just implied to be really good friends. So I don't know what the deal is. Like they don't have any kids together, right?
I don't know.
Because they're always never related.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool to see like a lineage. If they maybe not with Zelda, but like some game where like every sequel is like the lineage of these characters. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just their way of explaining why the same things keep happening over and over again. Why it's the same characters.
Right.
Again, just fantasy stuff. Whatever. It works.
This is also the first Zelda game with voice acting. Not full voice acting.
But yeah, not that's the thing. Is like they don't fully commit to it. Like
Yeah.
some parts are not voice acted, some parts are, which is kind of weird.
They
but
do
alright.
they do what the Yakuza games do, which is like in a cutscene they'll say like, Link, it is your destiny to find the 4 divine masters, and then it cuts to like the game. Oh, huh? I'm like, what the hell? Like, come on.
It's like at least commit if you're gonna add voice acting. At least commit to it. That's one thing about Ghost of Tsushima is like it's fully voice acted. But again, it's going for a more realistic approach.
Yeah, but they're both AAA titles. Too.
Yeah.
It's like okay,
if you're gonna commit to the cutscenes, come on, at least commit to the NPCs in the open world, whatever. Man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's That's the interesting thing too. Is like, in all of the Yakuza games, the first 5 in the main storyline have like the thing where it's like, oh, like the whole sound effects.
Yeah.
But Yakuza 6 is the first game where everything is voice acted. Even the side characters that you talk to on the street, they have a full voice and you can skip it. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So I wonder what Yakuza 7 is going to be like. But whatever. In any case, Breath of the Wild is a lot of fun. It's definitely a Zelda game. I can see why it gets all the praises. I'm definitely echoing words that I've talked about before on the podcast in probably in the first few early episodes, because that's when the Switch came out, and that's when Jairus came over to our house, Jordan, and remember we were like playing it for a while.
Yeah.
Just lost and confused in what to do.
Yeah.
No, it's super fun. I'm definitely gonna sink a lot of time into this game. This is definitely a quarantine game. I think this is, if you're planning to play
any open world game. Is a
yeah,
quarantine game.
exactly. But Zelda in particular, I think this is like 200-hour plus game. If you want to do everything, and I want to do everything because why not? But yeah, so DBD, Ghost of Tsushima, Zelda, and I have one other game that I played recently. I think I texted you this, but like Black Awake is 99 cents or was. Did you get it? Did you have it?
I did not, but
Okay.
I mean, I'll probably pick it up at some point.
Yeah.
It'll probably go on sale again.
Yeah, it's so I was playing with our cousins, and
Yeah.
I can see why it's 99 cents. I don't think it should be $10. It should honestly stay a 99-cent game, just like Dino D-Day does.
Yeah.
Because first of all, it's built on Unity. Let's be real. Unity's not the best engine for everything.
Yeah.
Ukulele is built on Unity, and I'm talking shit about ukulele before, and I'm not afraid to talk shit again, because ukulele. If you want to play Banjo-Kazooie, just play Banjo-Kazooie. Don't play ukulele. I'm sad that I wasted $15 on it.
Yeah.
In any case, sorry, no, I don't want to bash. This is not a bash on ukulele topic. Black Awake, it's fun. Like, it's a game about ship-to-ship combat. You are the Royal British Navy versus pirates. Each team, there's 3 teams on each side. You all have a ship. Each team has a ship, so 6 ships total, 3 on each side. One person's the captain. There's 2 people that man the cannons, but also fire the guns.
Yeah.
And you can like ram into other ships. You can board them. You have different weapons. You have different loadouts. It sounds really cool, right?
Yeah.
Playing it is clunky. First of all, they have a tutorial which you play. And after the tutorial, it's at the loading screen on the bottom. It says, "Is your game crashing? Use these commands." I'm like, that should not be in a game. If a game is telling me that if I'm having issues with the crashing and giving me instructions, what? That's so bad. Why would you put, if you're crashing on the loading menu, like instructions on what to do?
That means it is a problem. It's like an ongoing problem. Like,
yeah. So that was the first red flag.
Tips. Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is weird. It didn't crash on me in the beginning. It crashed on me a couple times, but like, okay, that's aside the point. You can customize your character, which is really cool. There's no in-game purchases so far, because this is early access or just came out of early access. I think that's why they made it 99 cents, because there's version 1.00. I'm like, okay, cool. Basically $1, right? So that's why they made it 99 cents.
Yeah.
And over each time you level up, the minimum being level 12, you get a new item, like a new hat or new shirt or new pants or whatever.
Okay.
So, you try to find a server. All of them have like 60 to 400 ping, and you're like, okay, obviously I'm going to choose a 61. No, there's no one playing on that server. All right, I'll choose the 90 ping one. Like, okay, it's a hassle trying to make a party, because in the menu screen you have to click on party. You have to type in like a word or a few letters and numbers so you can have a unique identifier. You can always change it.
Okay.
So we made our party tag. Or we're like, okay, so how do we join together in one match as a party? Turns out you can't. Gotta do it old school. You each have to go into your server list, find the same server. All of us click on it, and when we're in that server, we can identify which team we're on by the color of our name.
Okay.
It's like,
it's really janky.
Exactly. So then we get in, right? One of us is the captain, and we go up to. So you start on ports on either end of the sea. Either end of the sea. So you have in your squad, you vote who you want to be captain, which is pretty democratic, I'd say, for pirates. So we're like, okay, we want you to be captain. So we voted one person to be captain. We talk to the guy in the middle. There's always the one NPC on the dock. He's like, all right, so you're a captain. Choose the name of your ship and choose the ship type. Like, okay, you can name the ship whatever you want, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And you can choose like between like a galleon, which is huge and has a bunch of guns, which from like a small ship that's really, really fast and has like minimal guns.
Yeah.
And so first one we did was like a galleon, had a bunch of cannons. Turns out there are a lot of NPCs on it. The NPCs help you fix the ship and load the cannons and fire.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's only for that server though. I don't know if it's for every single server, because it makes sense to have. What if you just have 3 people like we did on our ship, and there were literally only 3 of us, one driving, the other 2 like doing whatever? Then how can you fire all the cannons at once? Obviously, you need NPCs. I think either whoever made the server or the devs realized that there aren't going to be a lot of people playing, so they need literally other bodies to help.
Yeah, and
do
it makes
other
it feel
functions.
more alive and stuff.
Yeah. So when you're the captain of the ship, only you can drive the ship. No one else can steer the ship. So if you get stuck and the captain dies, well, you're just sitting ducks and you're just cannon fodder.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So we go out into the sea. We're like, okay, we're gonna do this, and these 2 pirate ships flank out of nowhere and just destroy us. We're like, wow, okay, that was lame. We get another ship, and then this time I'm captain. And for the rest of our time playing, which was like an hour and 45 minutes, I'm the captain of whatever ship that we're playing as.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm steering. I'm like turning correctly. You can tell the crew which kind of ammo you want, and that's the only way they can load it. They can't load grappling hooks on their own. They can't load like grape shot, which is like a shotgun blast on their own. You have, as the captain, you have to command them. All right, load grapples on the port side, load grape shot on the starboard side. So then you're like, okay, cool. You do the crew does that. The NPCs do that, and the other players on your ship know to do that. So we pull up next to a ship, we shoot a grapple into it, it comes towards us. We all like aim with our muskets and just fire on the enemy team. We killed the captain on their side, but they could still respawn as long as the ship comes up. So I tell the NPCs like, fire on the ship. They all fire on the ship. It's starting to sink. The NPCs on their side, on the enemy ship, are like trying to plug the holes and load the cannons, and the captain respawns, pull out my giant mortar gun and just blast him, and he just flies.
Nice.
So that was cool. Like that part was awesome. Like getting to like jump onto another person's ship is awesome. Yeah. What's not cool is when you're fighting 2 pirates who are sailing really 2 fast ships. But the nice part about that was our ship had 2 guns in the back, so we would just load it and just fire. I'm like going full speed ahead, and these 2 pirates are like trying to get to us, but we're shooting them with our cannons.
Nice.
So this sounds really cool, right?
Yeah.
Awesome, but not if everyone's disconnecting and there's a bunch of Russian hackers.
Yeah, that's the thing about like small multiplayer games like this is there's gonna be no anti-cheat. Like you're not gonna have any kind of anti-cheat. That's why I'm very hesitant to join any kind of small time multiplayer games, because like and if you want, even AAA games struggle with anti-cheat,
Call of Duty.
Yeah, I play Warzone quite a bit. I wouldn't say I run into hackers a lot, but every so often there's a blatant hacker. I also play Destiny 2, and even among like the top players, the streamers of Destiny 2, they complain about hackers all the time. Like it's AAA games are gonna have their fair share of hackers, and some small tiny multiplayer game is obviously also gonna have.
Right.
So just I think if you're gonna go into a game like this, you gotta be aware of that.
Yeah, and Unity as well.
Yeah.
But it was fun for the like 1 hour and 45 minutes that I played that game.
It was $1 worth of fun.
Absolutely. Every time one of us crashed or something happened, we're like, yeah, this is worth $1. Like I was always like 99 cents, boys. This is 99 cents, and they're like, yep.
If candy is more expensive than this,
I could go to Safeway and buy a Kit Kat, and that's like what, 2 of those games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it's fun, but I think they just need to update it better, get better servers, get anti-cheat.
I imagine it's a really small team developing this.
Like,
so honestly, if I'm being brutally honest, I don't know if this game's really gonna go anywhere. Like I don't know if it's gonna become a big, huge game. Like,
absolutely not. Yeah.
But if it's $1 worth of fun, whatever, sure. But maybe hopefully they can get to $10 worth of fun.
Yeah, exactly. One other game I forgot to mention was, do you remember a game called Battlegrounds 2 on Steam?
Is that the
Revolutionary War?
Yeah,
So it died in 2016, but did you know they made a third one?
I did not know
that has an active community on Steam that you can just download for free on Steam and just play.
Is it also still like a source mod?
Exact same game as 2.
Okay.
It's just what it is. I hopped in and I was like, oh, wow. And it's exactly the same. You have different classes. You have to reload your gun really slow. It's free, and it's so janky. So, yeah, I mean, it's there. We should play it.
yeah, I'm down.
Oh, man.
Seems pretty fun.
I was playing on it, and there's a Russian guy and an American guy, and they were trying to insult each other really loudly, but they were both children. Yeah, and I was like, oh, my God. Whatever. And then I left after 10 minutes because I couldn't listen to them anymore. Okay. So, moving on. It's been pretty hot here, huh?
Yep.
In the Bay Area, particularly.
It always gets hot in August. August is the worst.
Well, we had like a really bad heat wave recently.
But then there was also a thunderstorm.
Yeah, literally.
Night.
Did you hear the thunder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside of my window, it was like flashes of light, and I was like, oh my gosh.
I woke up and I was like, what the hell? I thought someone was rolling a barrel outside our backyard. I was like, is there someone rolling a barrel? Like, what the heck? Because that's what it sounded like. Because it kept happening. I was like, huh. Because I honestly did not think that there was a thunderstorm because we had such a hot day, and I was like, oh yeah, of course. With the sunshine brings the rain, right? So there was that. That was crazy. And I just remember sitting in my room on Saturday and just like melting.
Yeah, one of my friends who lives in San Jose, he lost power.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. There are a lot of people losing power on Saturday.
Yeah, and so he was just like constantly texting us in our group chat, and we were like, how are you using your phone? He's like, I have this portable charger that I haven't used in 2 years, but it's like, I recently charged it and it has full juice. And I'm just living off of that.
He's like,
all right.
San Jose turned to a post-apocalyptic
He's like,
world.
guys, you don't understand. I can't play any video games. Because all the games we play are all online games.
That's true.
So,
true.
like, he needs connection. It was yeah.
Which, like, fun fact for people listening, breaking news, Steam is down right now, and I guess a lot of people are freaking out. I mean, I'm just going to be playing Zelda. But, like, I know you're playing Borderlands and...
Yeah, but if I play Remnant's on Epic, and so it should be fine.
Right. Got it. Yeah, Epic's not down, so...
As far as we know.
Well, moving into news, and speaking of Epic, I think you probably heard of, like...
The beef between... Yeah. So, I don't have that many problems with Epic. The Epic Game Store, I do wish it had as many features as Steam. I don't really have any problems with like the product, I would say, but Epic as a company and their choices, like I do have some problems with.
Pretty sketchy. And Tim Sweeney as a dude just seems like a sketch dude.
Yeah, I think this seems like some big ego battle. Like
honestly, I think it's exposure. So for those that don't know, Apple and Google have strict in-game purchases policies where they take 30% of the cut that, whatever goes to their store, they take 30% of that. Yeah. Epic went around this by introducing its own in-app purchases that they circumvented the system for by basically not allowing Apple and Google to take cuts from. Yeah. So Apple has to review every single thing that goes into the App Store, any purchase you make. So any little item that goes into Fortnite, they have to be like, okay, we approve it to be sold. But Epic didn't do that. So Apple and Google both pulled Fortnite and Epic Games from their respective stores.
Yeah. And
in result of Epic filed a lawsuit against both of these companies saying, they're
it's a monopoly.
Yeah, they're not allowing freedom of like applications on their stores or whatever. And it's just like, okay, publicity stunt, also capitalism to the fullest extent for both of these, for all three of these companies,
Like they're catering to a pure purpose, the idea of a free market where you don't have like these two big companies controlling it. But come on, Epic's also a big corporation that's doing it for the money.
Exactly.
They're just trying to get you to buy into this, like, oh, we're rebelling against the corporations. You're a corporation.
Yeah.
What is this?
Dude, like you want to make do you know how many free games you give out as just publicity?
Yeah.
It's like, what? Oh my God, it's ridiculous. And like they own the engine for PUBG, and they own the biggest game.
Yeah,
in the
Unreal.
world.
Like
Yeah.
they own Unreal.
Yeah.
So
And they own Fortnite. They made Fortnite. It's like, do you guys know that you're a company? They made a 1984 ad, like they based off of Apple's
the Apple ad.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this screams capitalism. Like all of this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I know what you're trying to say, but at the same time, like you need to look in the mirror too and see what you are. You know?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure if they are self-aware or not. I hope that they're self-aware and they
God.
know what they're actually doing.
I don't know. I don't think so.
But or they just think they're fighting for something. Someone in the company is self-aware and knows that this is all just about money. But they're framing it like, oh, we're fighting the good fight. And it's like,
yeah, dude.
I don't know about that.
No,
Honestly, I don't really care. I don't really mobile game that much. So it's
Same.
I don't have a horse in this race, so I don't care.
And you can play Fortnite on
But-
everything. So,
Yeah.
I mean, boo-hoo the people that can't play it on Apple Store. You can still get it from Android, but whatever reason.
Yeah, so what are they going to do? You're going to add, they're going to try to circumvent Nintendo's, safeguards in the Switch store and say, well, Nintendo has a lockdown on the Switch marketplace. Well, no shit. Like, they made the Switch.
Yeah.
Google made Android. Apple made iPhone. Like, I get it. I get that you want more freedom
Sure.
so that you can make more money or whatever. But, like, these corporations made these products and they're letting you use these products to sell your product. So I like, not that I want to side with any corporation in this fight,
Sure.
but I don't really get Epic's side. Like, I don't really understand
It's like
what they're trying to do.
they're literally saying like, don't bite the hand that feeds you, which makes like the bigger companies are like, don't bite the hand that feeds you because they're giving Epic that opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But Epic did that same thing to the PUBG people. They're like, you're using like, don't bite the hand that feeds you, like, because the PUBG guys are like, oh, we're using your engine, which is the Unreal Engine for PUBG, and I forgot. There's a whole lawsuit there, but that's like, they kept going up the chain until eventually, one after another. Now Epic's in that situation, right? So
Yeah, like if this was different, like if this was like a small company that was being pushed around by these big corporations about like, and they were like draining them of money or whatever,
Right.
And they were like, yeah, we need a free market, blah blah. I'm like, okay, I kind of get where they're coming from, but again, like I said, like I keep saying, this is a huge corporation that doesn't like that they're getting 30% of their revenue taken out by another corporation. And so they tried to find a way around it. And obviously the first corporation is going to be like, no, you can't do that because we need our money if you're using our platform.
Right.
And so it's just a whole bunch of nonsense.
Just follow the rules.
It's just a
You know
whole
what?
bunch of nonsense.
If they care so much about money, they should have just followed the rules in the first place.
if they care so much, make their own phone in their own marketplace.
There you go.
There you go. Make an Epic phone. All those kids are going to buy it.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, buy the Epic phone. You get an Epic phone in Fortnite too.
And you get all these V-Bucks.
Yeah, you get all these V-Bucks and kids are going to buy it. I'm telling you, Epic, you could take that idea. You don't even have to pay me. You don't even have to. I don't even want my name attached to it. You know what? Take the idea. Make an Epic phone.
Don't you want 30% of that cut, Jordan?
Okay.
Capitalism. No. Capitalism. You don't want to give.
They're gonna take that idea anyways, no matter what. I can't even sue them. You know what? There's no way. You know what? Just take it. It's like, I'm not gonna even put in the effort. Just take the idea, make your own phone, throw in some V-Bucks, throw in some cosmetics, and you'll sell it. All the kiddies will buy it. So
just say the word V-Bucks and the kids will come sniffing.
The V phone.
There-
The V phone.
Oh yeah, you're already giving them good ideas.
Phone night.
Phone. Okay, maybe not that one. Phone night.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like I just don't understand what the deal is. Like so what's the alternative here? That Apple allows another storefront to install apps onto their device? Because in the end, Apple's gonna win out anyways. No one's gonna trust some random third-party storefront. Like, unless is Epic trying to make their own storefront that can be installed on Apple and be used to install Apple apps? But I guess that's what they're fighting for.
I'm sure they're thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't know what the argument here is. Like, what are they trying to do?
Imagine like going to the Play Store on either Google or Apple and then finding an Epic launcher, click on the launcher, and then launching your game. That sounds like such a hassle. It's like doing it on PC. You know? You need a launcher to launch your game, which is fine on PC, but on mobile, no one wants to do that. They don't got time for that.
Yeah.
Right? Like they just want to go to the App Store, search in Fortnite, and then just press it and install it, and then boom, you're done.
Yeah. So I don't.
It's really weird, confusing, and I hope that I don't care. I don't hope anything. I don't fucking care.
Again, I don't care how this turns out. I really don't care.
We don't play.
Yeah.
We don't play that game. We don't play Fortnite. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, but if you play Fortnite and you can't install it on iPhone anymore, but that's not your fault. That's these corporations' fault.
Yeah.
It's capitalism for you. Sorry.
Yeah. And even though even though we're saying we don't care about all this, what happens, the reason why we're talking about it is because we want to give our opinions on it, right? So even though we don't care about what happens.
Yeah, we probably don't have the most, like interesting opinion on it because, again, we don't have a horse in this race. We're not directly involved in this,
right.
But we're just giving you guys our insight from an outside perspective.
If we were avid Fortnite players, then of course you'd hear that. But
yeah, well, even if I was, I'd probably still just be mad at the companies and not necessarily care about this whole situation,
Yep. So there's our answer: is we don't care because we don't play the games. All right. So moving on to something different. Fall Guys. Fall Guys is a game that exists that you and I have not played yet.
Nope. But
everyone around us plays it.
Yeah, I know a ton of people like that are constantly playing, and they're saying how great it is. And like I don't deny it. It looks fun. I just have a lot of other things on my plate. And
exactly.
I don't know. Like it's just, I'll probably get to it eventually.
Yeah.
It's a new game too, so I imagine over time they're gonna add more content, and because it's gonna go one or two paths. I see. It's either gonna fall out of relevance, and it's gonna be some of this niche thing that a few thousand people play. Or they're going to keep updating it with new stuff, and it's going to be this cool new thing that a lot of people play. And so I'll probably just wait till that's the case, when it's like more popular and they have more content. Because I do a lot of, I'm one of those people who actually looks at Steam reviews. Even if a game is like super positive, I always look at the Steam reviews.
They're really funny too.
Yeah, they're pretty funny, and some of them are really informative. Like some people put a lot of effort into the Steam reviews.
Yes.
And so there was one review that I saw it was a positive review. They were saying that they recommended it, but they were saying like, oh, just be aware that there are problems with this game. Like the content is kind of lacking, and some of the games seem a little unfair, or like there's too much RNG involved. And I was like, all right, this seems like a pretty good review. And based on like that kind of review, I was like, I'll wait a bit till there's more content and it's kind of fleshed out more.
Yeah. For those that don't know what Fall Guys is, and I'm sure a lot of people listening know what it is, but for those that don't know what Fall Guys is, the way that I would elevator pitch it to you is that it's Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, or Wipeout.
Or Wipeout.
Takeshi's Castle or whatever.
Yeah, Takeshi's Castle / MXC, Ninja Warrior, Wipeout, all those things meets a battle royale, because that's exactly what it is. Like, instead of one person running the course, you have 60 people total running the course. And it's basically an obstacle course race with some puzzles involved. You have 60 people trying to make it to the finish line. If you become first, then you're the winner of that. Winner chicken dinner.
Yeah, and this is another one of those cases where it's a concept that has existed before. It's just this is like the first mainstream example. Like this whole idea, it's been in Gary's mod. It's been in Minecraft mods. Like people have been doing this before. This whole like everybody runs to the end and there's obstacles. But yeah, I would say like this is one of the first mainstream examples of that kind of game.
Yeah. And it's appealing because it's coming during a time when, of course, COVID's happening. Everyone's indoors. Yeah. People are looking for something to play. It's competitive, but it's not too like
you have to be super skilled or
everyone, and literally anyone can play it, because you have like run, jump, grab, and throw.
And based on the art style, it seems very, I wouldn't call it a kid's game per se, but it looks very kid friendly. Like it is very clearly meant for like a family audience. Like anyone can play it, like you said.
I'd say it's accessible. It's extremely accessible because it's such an easy game to play. When a mom comes in seeing their kid play, they're like, oh, they're just playing a kid's game.
Yeah, it's like colorful and little characters and everything.
Very vibrant colors. Very saturated. Looks awesome. I mean, when they're it's $20 too. It's so cheap. Yeah. So of course,
and I'm sure there's in-game purchases for like cosmetics, because there's clearly cosmetics when you look at all the marketing. There's like so many outfits you can get for your character.
So I want to get into that. So right now, it's the most popular game in the world. Right now, it's outselling and outbeating Grand Theft Auto 5, which has long been the king of online games, and PUBG, which is also big. Fortnite is still, I think, at the top. Yeah. But everyone's like slowly. It's from one colorful game to another, right? PUBG. There's a higher learning curve because you have to build and shoot, and you have to focus on these things, and you have
Fortnite,
and you have to like focus on two things at once. You have to focus on like surviving and also like killing.
And you also have to know like these are the differences of the different types of guns, and these are the different tiers of quality, and like these are the different ammo types. And like there's so many mechanics in a normal battle royale Like, even take something like Apex Legends. Like, there's different abilities that each character has.
Right.
And so Call of Duty, there's like different bounties, and there's so many mechanics in a normal battle royale type game that, this kind of thing is, where it's just everybody race to the end, last one survives, wins. Like, that's pretty straightforward. I could see the appeal of it.
And again, the controls are so easy to remember.
Yeah.
Just run, jump, grab, throw. Like, yeah, that's it. All right, you're done. Now you won. And that's why I think it's easily accessible, and it's funny because like a lot of random things happen to you and other characters, and basically it's a take on Darwinism,
Survival of fittest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
if you can't make it to the end, then...
I get the appeal. Yeah, I'm just not jumping to play it right away.
Same.
But like, I get the appeal. I see it, and I'll probably touch it at some point when there's more content.
So on that point, there was an interview with Joe Walsh from Inside Gaming. Inside Gaming did an interview with Joe Walsh, who is the lead designer on Fall Guys. And he mentioned that they're a small team based out of the UK. And they didn't expect this. They didn't know if this game was going to be 50,000 players, 500,000 players. So they had to scale accordingly. And right now, if you go on the Steam, well, I don't know if Steam's the backup, but earlier today, if you went on Fall Guys' Steam page, it would say there's a queue for this game.
I saw the store page. It was saying like we're dealing with server issues.
Exactly. So I'm like, wow, that's insane to think about, because your little game that's $20 suddenly blows up, right? So that's now,
the dream.
Joe Walsh was explaining that right now, Fall Guys is on this pedestal. And he has all these other brands that are coming to him saying, hey, can we put our skin in the game? Because one of the first major ones that came out recently was the Scout outfit from Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, of course, because it's on Steam. Yeah,
exactly. And so, of course, Valve, I think, has every right to put their skins in that game because it's on Steam, right?
Yeah.
So the other outfit that was leaked recently was Shell from Portal 2.
Yeah.
So that outfit's coming out. The game is published by Devolver Digital and created by the developer was Mediatonic. So Devolver Digital, they have a lot of games under their belt, a lot of like, I'd say select. They're like the A24 of game publishers, because they curate specific games that have a very like niche following and cult following.
It's more like mid tier. Like, it's not super indie, but it's like sort of middle tier, not AAA. But yeah,
a good example is Shadow Warrior.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good example, because it's like it feels like a AAA game, but it's actually not. It's like it's more of like a mid-tier game, like you just said.
Yeah.
And a lot of their games range from 8-bit to full 3D, and I think that's really cool that like they have a good track record of selecting good games. So of course Fall Guys falls under their purview, and with that a lot of more skins come up. So to your point earlier, Jordan, I think that once more features, because they're listening to a lot of fan feedback. Once more features, skins, what's it called? Like modes come out.
Levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's when the game's gonna start having a better lasting experience, because I also have the same fear you do. Is I don't know how long I'm gonna play this game for, right?
Yeah.
In its current state. Like, maybe in the future I'll play it for longer.
Yeah, what if the hype dies, right?
Like, what if it gets old really fast because you're doing the same thing over and over again? Because like a lot of the levels right now, according to the game designer, they're the same. They do the exact same thing, so a lot of people know when it's going to happen. So they just shave off milliseconds of their runtime.
Yeah, so you're going to get some people who are always going to win because they memorize everything, and then
Right. And again, to their point, this is not their fault entirely, because they didn't know how well this game was going to do, so they didn't bother putting a lot of that stuff in there. But now that the game's out, it's doing well, a lot of people love it, they can focus their time on doing these other extra things that they knew that they were going to have and have feedback on, but they didn't know were going to be like highly sought after, because of the amount of people that are like looking at it, have eyes on it. So yeah, I think I have no gripes against the game. We both want to play the game. It's just right now in its current state, I don't know if I'm too interested. I need more.
Yeah,
I want. They talked about having a level editor.
That would be cool.
I want a Ninja Warrior level,
Ooh,
like original Japanese Ninja Warrior.
Yeah, adding mod support or any kind of custom experience would add so much longevity to the game.
Yeah,
because again, look at something like Gary's mod or Minecraft, where people can just do whatever they want.
Yeah,
like just people will create their own modes.
Yeah,
and you could turn those into a mode if you want to. That's what happened in a lot of other games where you take a mode and they're like, oh, that's really cool. We're gonna turn this into an official mode or whatever, or an official map.
Yeah, I think it's cool because like that's how Counter-Strike was born. People were playing around in Half-Life multiplayer, and they're like, "Hey, what if we just made this into a game mode where we just shoot each other?"
Yeah,
And they're like, "Okay, yeah, let's add real-world weapons." And so they made it, and then Valve didn't like say, "Hey, we're gonna sue you for making this mod." They're like, "Hey, here's a level editor." It's like, wow, that's really cool. So, Fall Guys, the developers, Mediatonic, they're really looking at all this fan feedback and criticism, and they're really taking it to heart. And I think
that's awesome.
I think that a level editor will come out, and I think a lot more people will play it because of how accessible that will be.
Yeah, and you could have something like, because what Killing Floor 2 does, which is obviously a very different game, but conceptually the idea is like, they have people of the community make modded maps, and so all these modded maps you can install separately on, it's completely up to you as a user. But the ones that are really good or really popular, they'll make officially part of the game, and they'll officially be on the official list that anyone who installs the game will immediately have access to. And so I could see that too. It's like, oh hey, we're having a level competition, and anybody who wants to make a level can submit, and they can make it an official part of the game. That'd be cool.
Before that were the items in TF2, the hats and the guns.
That's true too. Yeah, where people would design something, and be like, oh yeah, this is really cool. We're gonna make it part of the game. And I could see them doing that too with cosmetics. Be like, hey, design your own little character cosmetic, and you get a cut of the money, and
30%.
We're taking 30%. We're taking 30%. Hey, it's our game. We own the platform.
Don't bite the hand that feeds.
But also, Valve is also going to take a 30%. So. Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be terrible. Don't give them ideas. No, but they said for now there's no in-app purchases. In-game purchases with real money. You accumulate in-game money that you use. I forgot what it was called. It was like, I was thinking honor. That's all right. There was something else. But anyways, you accumulate in-game currency that you use for only in-game items.
Okay.
You can't put any.
I imagine it's not going to stay that way though. I think somewhere down the line you're going to pay for cosmetics, because again, it's a $20 game, so I get it. They're only asking for a little bit of money.
Yep.
But also in terms if this game is run on their own servers, because I don't think it's not a listener server system, right? It's not like a host makes a server.
No, that's why they're having problems.
Yeah, exactly. So the servers are expensive. And so I get it if they do introduce in-game purchases. I just hope it's not egregious. I hope it's just like, hey, pay like a couple bucks and you get this cool skin, and that's about it. Like,
sure. No, that's how I felt initially towards in-game purchases. I was like, you know what? I don't want to spend any money on this. But then when I started playing DBD, I actually was thinking about it, because I paid like $20 for the game and some DLCs initially. Yeah. And then they started having these things called season passes, which, a lot of games have that too. But when you buy a season pass, and you don't have to buy it for every single time that it happens, but for one season pass, I decided to test it out. I got so many items from that, because like DBD is built off of in-game cosmetics. There's nothing outside of the game that'll influence how you play it. You have to earn everything from playing the game, like the perks and all that stuff. And
we still have to pay for the different killers and some of the
sure. So. But like you could still buy those you can still buy a lot of that stuff with in-game currency. Yeah. So like, there's this thing called the Shrine of Secrets that happens every week, where 2 exclusive perks, both killer and both survivor, 2 survivor, 2 killer perks appear on the in-game store, and you can use your in-game currency to select those perks, and they might be for a licensed killer, or like and you might not have any of those perks from that killer, but that one perk that you might need might show up there. So there's that kind of that gamble, that chance you might do it from there. But going back to the season pass thing. It was like $10, and I got like 60 items. That's a pretty good deal in my opinion. And considering the amount of times I play the game, which is every day, I think it was justified in a way.
Yeah, because again, with these games, it's not like back in the day where you buy a game and you get a games with the content. Like, these are, the phrase is games as a service. So you're paying for a service.
Right.
And so I kind of get the idea that you're continually adding money to pay for this service, because otherwise they need to maintain servers, they need to pay their employees so that they can keep pumping out content.
Sure.
And technically you're getting, if you were to equate it to this, like an early 2000s or a 90s game, you're technically getting multiple games worth of content. So it makes sense to keep paying money to keep playing it. Like, again, like I play Destiny 2, and Destiny 2 has expansions. Some of these expansions are really small, but you only pay for like $10 to $15. And some of these expansions are huge, and you pay $25, $30, $40. And but like some people who play Destiny 2 will have different takes on it, but generally I feel like the price warrants the amount of content that you're getting. Like, Destiny 2 is free now. You can play the base game for free. But if you want a lot of the extra content, you have to pay for it, and it makes sense because there's clearly a lot of time and commitment and effort put into this content. So I have no problem with paying extra for things. I just sometimes it gets a little too egregious, like with Battlefront 2. Where, there are bad ways to do it. I have nothing against microtransactions. I get why they exist, and I think they're good when they're implemented well. But yeah, I think that's the point. Is just it has to be done well.
Did you spend a lot of money on Hearthstone?
Yeah. Kinda.
Okay. See, well, and that's yeah.
Yeah, but again, the argument with Hearthstone is it's no different from playing a physical card game where you have to pay for packs and things like that.
Absolutely.
And Hearthstone does allow you to pay with in-game currency, which you have to build up. Though I will say that after playing Legends of Runeterra, which is like Hearthstone's competitor,
right,
Legends of Runeterra is so much more generous with allowing you to unlock cards and unlock packs. Like I've not spent any money on Legends of Runeterra, and I have most of the cards.
Oh my god!
Whereas Hearthstone, unless you pay tons of money, you're only gonna have a fraction of the cards, and or if you play an insane amount, which I played a good amount, but yeah, I don't know. I prefer Legends of Runeterra, and I've talked about this before on the podcast.
Right? Yes.
But I prefer Legends of Runeterra's model where they have an easier way to gain cards. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And going back to the conversation about in-game purchases and just having DLC in general, when I bought Breath of the Wild, this is another good example. It was either I could buy the base game for $60, or for $20 more, I can get all the DLC that already came out.
Yeah.
There comes a choice there where you're like, all right, how much time am I going to be playing this game? And I like to attribute this to, I don't know if you remember this, but remember Sean Poole from Funhouse?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, the $1 per hour.
Exactly.
Rule.
That has always stuck with me. Like, how much time am I gonna sink into playing this game? $1 per hour. So every hour you play the game is $1. And some of the games I played, like the Yakuza series, definitely worth it. Like I get easily 150 hours from a $60 game. And right now, those games are $20, and you could play the game for 60 hours. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
And for Breath of the Wild, because Nintendo's such a first-party company, and they focus a lot of their resources on first-party titles, and Breath of the Wild, of course, is a first-party title.
Yeah.
It's gonna always be $60.
Yeah, Nintendo very, very rarely ever has any sales or discounts or anything.
Exactly. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy this at full price, and I think I'm gonna get all my money's worth back from it. So I made the choice to buy the DLC too. So I spent $80 on a game, which seems like a lot. I mean, you should at least get a statue. I'm just kidding. You don't need a statue with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be worth it. I'm definitely gonna be spending more than 80 hours playing this game. This feels more like a 150 hour to 200 hour game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it really depends on, as we were saying before, how much time you're gonna be spent playing the game. If you want to make those in-game purchases, because going back to DBD, I was talking about with my friends that I play with all the time, and I was like, does it make sense to buy the season pass this time? And they're like, yeah, because if there's something that you want, you're gonna get everything too. So even if you just get one thing, you'll be surprised at what you get for other characters, because maybe you weren't looking at that, and you're like, oh wow, actually this is actually really cool. So I think that it depends on how much that costs for you too.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Because, for example, would I buy a game for $10, like a cheap indie game for $10? $10 is less than a meal in in the Bay Area where everything is expensive. That's less than a meal. And I was like, am I gonna get a meal's worth of fun out of this game? Sure, why not? I'll pay $10 for Bigfoot.
We've got our money's worth out of that game too.
Yeah. So
the game is so stupid.
That game is so janky. No offense to the developers of Bigfoot, but that game is so janky, and we've only ever beaten the game because we don't even try to glitch the game. The game just glitches on us.
Literally, okay, developers, your game is awesome, but it fucking sucks sometimes, because literally every time we've played this game, every single time we've gotten Bigfoot is because he got stuck.
Yeah, he got stuck on a waterfall or under a bridge,
on a mountain,
in a cave, on a mountain, and we just shoot him to death. That's the only time we ever win the game, because eventually, if you wait long enough, Bigfoot will get stuck somewhere.
I'm like, hey Jordan, you want to play Bigfoot? You're like, yeah, and we play it, and I'm like,
Oh, he's stuck again.
Looks like let's wait for the next update.
and don't get us wrong. He doesn't get stuck immediately. There's a build up, so you still get fun. You still get fun running around the woods and like, look what's coming! I heard him. He's coming. Or I see him.
And then shooting him.
And then after maybe like 30 minutes, you're like, wait a minute, what's he doing over there? He's not coming. Oh, he's stuck. Okay.
I remember we were just swimming, right? Oh my god, he's right there.
He's right there. He's there. I'm gonna take a shot. I'm gonna take a shot. I shoot him. He didn't move. He's just there. He's just standing there.
All right, let's get closer. We get closer.
And he doesn't even attack you when you walk up to him while he's stuck. You just knife him. There's
just a wolf down there too. What's this wolf doing here?
Yeah. But yeah, like just gauge it based on your own personal preferences. I would say if it's a $60 game, then I'm a lot more judgmental of it. I'm like,
sure.
Is this, because $60 is like main title, big game, and it's like, okay, is this gonna be $60 for me? But when it's usually on the lower end, I'm like, $5 for 1 hour of fun. Yeah, I'm sure. Why not? Like, you know, the dollar per hour rule doesn't really apply to me when it goes to the lower amount, because it's like, like there's a game, I forget what it's called. Pacify, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a horror game that I paid $5 for, and me and my friends, we played for it for maybe an hour, a little over an hour. Cool. But it was fun. I was like, $5 worth of fun? Sure, why not? $5. That's you know, it's gonna get me a gallon of milk in. So is that worth a gallon of milk? Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, like to me, it just really depends. You know, everyone has their own personal preferences. Like one game I play, Path of Exile. It's a free-to-play game, but the cosmetic, and it only has cosmetics in terms of in-game purchases, but they are very expensive. Like they're pretty expensive in terms of in-game cosmetics. But I play well, not so much anymore, but used to play the game a lot,
mm-hmm.
and so I was playing it for free. So I was like, oh, it's a good way to give back to these developers if I you know, spend $25 on a skin, on like a character skin. And so I bought a few of those skins, and they're no longer completely independent. I think Tencent owns them now, so you know, less of a reason to pay $25 just for a skin. But yeah, like I enjoy being able to support developers if their game is good and if they're giving me good content. I'll pay for it. Like I'll give them some money.
Yeah, that's a good point. But what about in the case of a game like Train Simulator, which is $30, but if you buy all the DLC, it's $13,000.
So I get the argument here where it's the kind of game where you're not supposed to buy all the DLC. Like it's not intended.
But there
you.
are some people out there.
Yeah, but I've never played the game, so I can't
Same.
pass complete judgment on it. But does the base game at least feel like a complete game, or does it feel like, oh no, you need to buy all the DLC to get any kind of good experience?
The DLC is just trains, extra trains. The
Yeah.
base game is the game, and the other stuff is just trains. Like, if you want a specific train.
I can get the argument that it's kind of like a collection simulator. You know, like someone who collects, like, let's say I collected, like, you know, Warhammer figurines or Dungeons and Dragon figurines.
Right.
Like, that's a game.
Right.
And I have to buy each piece for if I want that experience with that game. And you could say it's like that, just a virtual version. Like, you're not going to buy all the Dungeons and Dragons figure. Maybe there's probably people out there who do, but you're probably not going to buy all the figures that ever existed for that, however much that might cost. But, you know, for the average person, you'll buy the trains that you like. You'll buy this train for a couple bucks or that train for a couple bucks. And sure, I get that aspect of it. Again, I don't play this game, so I don't know how egregious I would say the microtransaction in-game purchases are. But if it feels like a complete game and I only buy the trains that I like, then I get that. I get what they're going for. But yeah, again, it really depends on the experience.
Yeah, no, you have a good point there. And I think that's what I wanted to hear, because I don't have a game. I don't play the game.
Yeah.
But like, it doesn't detract from the actual game itself. It's more of like a cosmetic thing. It's like, I want this train specifically.
Yeah, imagine if you got Smash Bros. Ultimate, where there was like, hey, you get the first 5 characters, but everything else you have to pay for. Then I would be like, screw that.
That's
like,
literally
no.
EA.
But they give you all the characters from all the previous games, and then they're like, okay, here's a couple extra characters for, you know, a couple bucks each, you know, like, or
right.
like for you pay for the season pass and you get these new characters. Then I'm like, okay, I get that. That's cool. You know, they're already giving you a ton of content, and then in order to get extra content, you have to pay extra. Makes sense. I get that. But yeah, like, as long as the core experience is solid and they give you a lot and it's good, it's worth the money at the very least, then I'm fine with in-game purchases.
Yeah, okay. Fair. That's fair. So moving on to our last bit of news. It is about Ghost of Tsushima Legends. A new DLC is coming out, fall 2020. This is really cool. It's a new separate mode. It is inspired by Japanese folktales and mythology. It's more haunting and fantastical than the actual main campaign.
Okay.
There's a trailer that's out. It's like a minute and 45 seconds. It's multiplayer, 4 players.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it looks like there's like these giant torii gates, and there's 4 characters. One looks like Jin, Ryuzo, Yuna, and then there's another character. I forget what they resemble, but there's 4 classes with unique advantages. He's like, hey,
It's me, Kenji.
hey. So there's story and survival missions, and it looks like you can like assassinate people as a team.
That's cool.
Yeah, but you're in this like dream world. Not really dream world. It's like you go through these torii gates, and they teleport you to this like demonic looking world.
Okay.
It's like
So it's feeding more into the supernatural elements.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out a way to describe it, but like it's hard. I guess it would be like Far Cry 3, but then playing Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon.
Oh, well, I think it's more like Assassin's Creed, because the Assassin's Creed games, they're grounded in reality, but then there's but then in like the Odyssey, there's like parts where you can fight like mythical creatures, like Greek mythology.
I did not know that.
Like the main game is all, real world history, etc.
Right.
And then there's also like, there's this side area, or I don't know exactly how it works, but there's a DLC or side area where you fight like, again, some Greek mythical creature, or the same thing with like Origins in Egypt. There's the same thing. It's like you fight Anubis in this one area, but otherwise it's just mostly a grounded game. So I think they're kind of going for that.
Yeah.
And then it's been done before, so I don't know what else much to say. Like, it doesn't seem that new, or not that it isn't exciting, but it's not unprecedented.
Right. I just want to see what their takes are on a lot of these creatures. Like, because remember, should we talk about one of the? Is it a spoiler if we talk about one of those creatures?
Like a very specific mission?
Yeah. Remember we were talking about that? You saw me play it. Is that a spoiler?
Minor spoilers. There are reference to supernatural elements and mythology in.
But you don't see anything.
But you don't see anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they'll build. I want to see that. Like, I want to see creatures like a nine-tailed fox. Yeah, or Kappa. A dragon. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Go big or go home. Or like a Tengu, or
sure.
Yeah, like some cool things.
And anything from Yokai Watch.
Yeah. All the yokai, all of them.
Yeah, so that's coming out. It's gonna be free. The whole thing will be free, which is awesome.
Really? Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I don't know if it's gonna be strictly multiplayer, because what if I just want to play it by myself?
Like a solo run. I hope that they add that, because I think with most games it's like, hey, it's meant for multiplayer, but if you want to do it on your own, you can do it that way.
Like Borderlands, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, you can do single player if you want. I hope it's that way.
Yeah, I really do hope so, because it looks really cool. Because it's gonna be awesome. Just like the people that love cultural, like historical Japan, but also love like the mythology and tales. Because I know some of them, but not all of them. Yeah, of the stuff, like all the crazy creatures from Japanese folklore. Yeah. So if you're a fan of that, I think this will definitely appeal to you. We do have one comment this week from episode 118, the Judgment spoiler cast. This is from John Daxco. I'm sorry if I'm like butchering your name. John Dazco. Let's put John Dazco. They say, can't believe this is the only spoiler cast for this amazing story and great game. I truly appreciate it. Well, I appreciate you leaving that comment, John. Thank you so much. Yeah, Judgment is for those that don't know, is the spin-off from the Yakuza series. You play a detective as opposed to...
Did that do well, Judgment?
It did very well.
So they might do other Yakuza spin-offs and things like that.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking. They're going to make a sequel to Judgment. Right now, Yakuza rebooted. It's not going to feature the main character, Kazuma Kiryu, anymore. It's going to feature a new character with some old characters making returning appearances. Yakuza 7 is going to be released on November 7th, I think, 2020, this year. So I'm looking forward to that. But they changed the combat style. So instead of, the brawler as you see me play as, now it's turn-based.
Yeah, I heard about that.
A lot of people in the beginning had issues with that. I don't have a big issue with it. I need to play it first before I make an assessment. In the beginning, I was like, damn, this doesn't feel like Yakuza. But I think once I start playing it, it'll feel more like that. The Judgment games, I think, are going to be the brawler versions of that from now on.
So they'll have it. They'll be able to cater to both audiences.
That's what I'm thinking. I think they kind of knew that when they were making Judgment, and that's why they introduced it as the brawler aspect of it. And then they're like, hey, Yakuza 7 is going to be turn-based. but you can still play Judgment to feel the same way. So I mean, I'm excited for Yakuza 7, but yeah, man. John, thanks for leaving your comment on our podcast. This was a really fun game. Alyssa loved it. She played it twice. That's how much she loved it. And yeah, it was a really cool game overall. I hope they make a sequel and release it to the West, because a lot of people want the Yakuza series. There's a speaking of samurai there from earlier. There's a samurai version of the Yakuza games where all the main characters are based on historical samurai figures.
What?
Yeah, but they're all like playing themselves, but also playing the characters.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's set in the Edo period, I think. So Kiryu's a samurai. And there's one before that also takes place where Kiryu's Musashi. So it's like, wow, that's really cool that they didn't bring it to the West though, because they were afraid people
the cultural
exactly. Yeah, a lot of it is the main character, especially. He's such a Japanese hero that they were afraid like people won't understand it.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I think people are more open minded now,
especially with Ghost of Tsushima. Like, nobody here in the West knew what Tsushima was. Like,
or where? Yeah.
What is that?
Where is Tsushima? What is Tsushima?
Yeah, and it's granted it's made by an American company, but
right. Yeah.
But still, like, that Japanese awareness is there now. So
it's funny you mentioned that. I think I told you this, but like Toshihiro Nagoshi, he's the main producer, creator of the Yakuza series. He came out and he was
I heard about that.
Yeah, he was giving the studio Sucker Punch a lot of praise for making Tsushima. His first comment was, we should have made it, but not in a condescending way, in a more of like, Japan should be the one to be making that kind of game.
Yeah, it's more of a criticism of Japan, saying like,
exactly,
the Japanese people should be making games like this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because one, it's about their own history, right? It's got a lot of historical significance. I don't know how many people in Japan were taught about the Battle of Tsushima.
Yeah.
In 1274, I don't know like what the Japanese historical curriculum is.
Yeah.
But I assume there's like some basis that covers it.
Yeah.
But yeah, his comments were like, Japan should have been the one that made it. He said that they did a really good job with making the character, but in Japan they wouldn't have allowed that character to fly because he's not a pretty boy. He doesn't have long hair in the way that like anime characters are depicted, right? He's not young. Because Jin's implied to be in his 30s, like his late 30s.
Yeah, and usually in Japanese games you have very young protagonists who are like
pretty boy face.
Yeah, anime boy.
Just think of Cloud in Final Fantasy VII. That's what I'm sure Toshihiro Nagoshi was referring to.
Yeah, but and I get where he's coming from, because like in the Yakuza games the characters are I'm sure they're attractive to some people, but they're usually more of the gruff kind of guys.
Exactly. And one of them is missing an eye. Majima doesn't have an eyeball. So a lot of people don't find that attractive. But yeah, so like Jin isn't like the most handsome looking dude, but yeah, I mean,
he's an average, like he's not that he's ugly. He's just like a normal looking guy. Like he's not a supermodel or anything like that. Yeah. Like he seems historically accurate.
And you see his naked body a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he also said that the motion capture was really well done in Ghost of Tsushima, because Yakuza relies heavily on motion capture as well, because they scan a lot of actual actors' faces in to be in the game, which I think is really cool. And they did the same thing for Ghost of Tsushima. So he was praising the game overall. And if that guy is the one praising it, then obviously there's going to be some changes in the Yakuza games, I hope, because he's noticing this influence. And the game outsold in Japan. It did so well that people in Japan couldn't buy it. Like, it flew off the shelves. That's how popular it was. And it's funny too that the Japanese title for Ghost of Tsushima is Ghost of Tsushima.
They would say Tsushima, the Tsushima no whatever.
So I thought it was going to be that, because in Japanese, in my opinion, it should have been Tsushima no Yurei. Yurei is ghost.
Yeah.
Which sounds so cool. I'm like, oh man, that sounds awesome. But they're like, no, it's just going to be Ghost of Tsushima. I'm like, no, that's so boring.
All right.
Like, why?
Hey, you could literally translate this. Like,
yeah. I'm sure there was some marketing reason or whatever.
Maybe it's to show that it is not a Japanese game. Because it has a Western title.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's kind of like how sometimes Japanese games release here in the West and they keep the Japanese title. Right. Whereas you could just literally just translate it, but I don't know. I get what they're going for.
Yeah. No, yeah, that makes sense. Really quick though, backtracking just a little bit. I really like the Japanese voice acting in Ghost of Tsushima. That's something that Toshihiro Nagoshi also said was cool.
Yeah, I read that too.
It was really well done.
They were impressed by the level of authenticity,
which is awesome.
I think the lip syncing is synced to the English.
It is,
because it was originally an English game. Yeah,
and that's why I played the rest of it in English because it was weird seeing the Japanese voice and the lip flaps not moving correctly.
Yeah, and if it was intended to be in English, then why not?
And
why not give them that?
Yeah, the English voice acting surprisingly did not detract too much from the actual.
Yeah,
game.
like the characters actually have like Japanese accents, not thick enough that like,
not racist.
Yeah.
It was just
like slight Japanese accents, so it's like okay, well this feels authentic. Like,
it was respectable.
These Japanese people, like these are Japanese people who are speaking English,
right?
But it felt authentic as far as coming from someone who's not Japanese.
Yeah, exactly.
And it felt authentic enough.
Yeah, the main character was Japanese too. The main voice actor was Japanese, so I thought that was really cool. I mean, they pronounce everything properly as far as I can tell. So yeah, not with like a
Tsushima.
Tsushima, not Tsushima.
Yeah, Tsushima.
So overall fantastic game. I'm gushing, but I'm sure Alyssa has her thoughts. We'll talk about later. All right, so. If you want to leave us a comment, leave it on wherever this podcast is hosted. Leave it in the comment section of Podbean, YouTube, Stitcher, and we'll read on the podcast. You can leave us a review on Apple Podcast /iTunes, and we'll also read that on the podcast. You can send us an email the old-fashioned way, contact@downtime.live. You can go to our website, I'm sorry, that's not the website. The website's www.downtime.live. Click on the contact form. Leave us a comment in that way. I think that's it. Any other closing thoughts?
Stay safe out there, everyone.
Wise words. Well said. Well said. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to the 141st episode of Downtime Podcast. Have a good day, night, evening.
See ya.